How is everybody? Great. I'm glad you're here. Hey, look at somebody next to you and say, you're in the right place. Tell them again. Some of them were not convinced yet. Are there any married people in the house today? 7 of you are excited. Are there any married people in the house today? The same 7. Okay, some of you are sleeping on the couch tonight. Are there any single people in the house? Keep your hands up. This is your chance to look around. This is that glance moment. In fact, I'm gonna give you a free one. Okay, this is free one. After church, you might just go up to that person and just say, "Hey, girl, Jesus one time turned water into wine, and you must be touched by Jesus because he turned you into fine." One guy's like trying to write it down. Like, what would you say again? Like, God once turned water. Forget it. If you don't know it, it's not your line. We're in a series called Relationship Goals. And how many of you know when we look at the average normal relationship, there's got to be something better, right? Fair? All right. So I came across a couple memes this week that I thought would just encourage you a little bit. So let's take a look at the first one here. Raise your hand if you've been personally victimized by your own taste in men. Anybody? A couple of you raised your hands. Oh my gosh, it's so true. Some of you didn't want to admit that it was true. Some of you are like, oh man, that's my problem. All right, how about the next one? When you have to stop your best friend from getting into a wrong relationship. Some of y'all, the best thing you could do this week is get on the box. And some of you need to get in the box. Right? How many of you ever had that friend that you watch them going into the relationship, you're like, this is ending bad. This is going to end real bad. Some of you are sitting next to that person right now. This is not your chance to nudge them. Don't poke them. Like, this is just look forward. Just like, that's got to be somebody else. All right, here's the last. This one's my personal favorite one. I'm only one bad relationship away from having 30 cats. Yeah, I had that lady growing up. She was my neighbor. I don't think I ever saw a person at her house, but she had 30 cats at her house all the time. Me and my wife, Jonna, which, by the way, my name's Brandon. I'm the lead pastor here at Vibrant, and me and my wife, we started this church literally just 7 weeks ago. So you're in, like, the early days, grassroots, like, beginning stages of what Vibrant Church is going to be. And let me tell you, I have a lot of friends that have planted churches, and this is a special time. So if you've ever felt like, hey, maybe this is my moment to get connected in church, this is. Like, there is something unique about something new. And some of you, that's what you need in your life is something new. And we would love to partner with you in that something new in your life. Because I encourage you in this. If you give 1 year of your life to God, like really, I'm going to try it for 1 year. I'm going to go do the God thing for 1 year all in. In 1 year, I promise you, every part of your life will be better because of Jesus. Promise you. Amen. So that had nothing to do with today's message, but it's good. So me and my wife, we love to do premarital counseling. And we meet with couples, and a couple weeks ago I talked about how I kind of always make them squirm in the beginning. I asked them, why are you getting married? And you know, I've never had this answer, but this is what happens later in marriage. I've never had the spokesperson, which every relationship has a spokesperson. And if you don't know who it is, you're it. You're that person. I've never had the spokesperson answer me back saying, hey, our hope is we want to buy a bunch of shiny new things so in a couple years we can be drowning in debt because we were trying to impress a bunch of people and have a lifestyle that our parents had that took them 30 years to get, but we wanted it from the beginning. And in a couple years we want to fight about money so much that it ruins our marriage. I've never had the answer like, hey, I got addicted to pornography just like kind of like a little bit, but now I can't stop. And there's no intimacy anymore in our relationship. Like no one ever has that answer for me. I never had the person say, you know what, I want to start by just like telling some small lies, like ones that like they're white lies, they're not a big deal, like it's okay. And over time, those small lies turn into medium lies, and medium lies turn into big lies. And then your life becomes a lie, and you're deceiving everyone, and you don't even know the person you're looking at in the mirror. And eventually, all the lies come crumbling down on top of you. No one says, here's our plan, Brandon. When we get married, we're going to get busy because it's the American way. We're gonna get so wrapped up in our careers and making money and buying cars and having kids and going to our kids' events and our hobbies and chasing something more. We're gonna get so busy that in the next 15 years, we're gonna drift apart, and one day we're gonna look across the room from each other, sharing a bedroom and a bathroom, realizing we're just roommates. No one ever starts that way. But that's what's normal. So if you want something more than normal, and I would say even many of you in the room, even as I shared, that one of those probably was like, oh, there's a better way. Today's a new day, a fresh start. And I want to help you establish 4 goals in your relationships. And maybe you're single. These still apply to you. And here's these 4 goals. Number 1 is we're going to be Christ-centered. That our lives are going to be built around the person of Jesus and his ways. And let me let you know, Jesus does not want you to become religious. Some of you are like, what? I'm a pastor, I'm not religious. Religion is man's pursuit of God. What Jesus taught was God's pursuit of man. That everything I need to be made right with God doesn't have anything to do with me doing anything. It has everything to do with what he already did for me. And because he's done so much in my life, out of that relationship with him, I gladly center my life around what he wants me to do. Not trying to earn, not trying to deserve, just Christ-centered. And when you're Christ-centered, what happens is God makes you mission-driven. He puts a mission in front of you, a calling on your life that someday when you get in your 60s and 70s and 80s and you look over your life and you want to give an account for what you've done, is the world better because you were here? Because I know guys, I've seen guys on their deathbeds, and you know what they never talk about? They never talk about their income. They never talk about the car, even the one they restored. They talk about their kids, their relationships. And I'm going to tell you, the ones that did it right, they talk about this. I spent my life loving people, making a difference in other people's lives. I was generous. You see, when you follow Jesus, he puts a mission in front of you. And the third thing, we're talking about this one today, it's devil kicking. And some of you are like, oh God, I came to church on this day. It's not weird. But you do have an enemy that wants to wipe you out, because everything that God loves, the enemy hates. Everything that God has blessed in your life, the enemy wants to wipe out. So we're going to be devil kicking. And then the last one is this, we're going to be covenant keeping. You're like, well, I'm not in a relationship yet. There's a model of a covenant that God makes between us and him when we get in relationship with him that sets in front of us what relationships with other people should look like. So next week we're going to talk about what is the covenant between God and us that gives us the example of what it looks like to live in covenant among each other. So we're going to be Christ-centered, mission-driven, devil-kicking, covenant-keeping. And I think you already got it figured out, okay? Can you do this with me? So we are going to be, first off, Christ-centered, mission-driven, devil-kicking, covenant-keeping. Look at the person next to you and say, good job, you got this. We are going to be devil-kicking. The enemy hates everything that matters to God. Everything. I'm getting a little bit of feedback. I'm sorry, I'm going to back up a little bit. In Ephesians chapter 6, it says this, it says, put on all of God's armor so that you might be able to stand firm against all the strategies of the devil. So, you have a real enemy that wants to wipe out every good thing in your life. He's watched your parents. He's watched your grandparents. He's watched you your whole life, and he's learned patterns about you that if he does a couple different things, you're likely going to do this. He says, so it says, to stand firm against all the strategies of the devil, for we are not fighting against our spouses. We're not fighting against our friends. The enemy isn't flesh and blood, but against evil rulers and authorities of the unseen world, against mighty powers in this dark world. Have you ever had a thought that was so dark, you're like, there's no way that came from me? Right? We've all had that, like, what did I just think? Where did that come from? You have an enemy that wants to steal, kill, and destroy every good thing inside of you. So, how many of you have ever been in a relationship where you felt frustrated? Half of you. The other half of you have perfect relationships. You guys can come up here and you guys can take the mic and let us know about your perfection. How many of you have ever been frustrated in a relationship before? Some of you are still like, no, I've never been frustrated. It's all been puppy dogs and rainbows my whole life. Some of you are like, I'm not talking to the preacher. Hey, you're in church, or one of those churches where it actually gets better when you talk back with me. Have you ever been angry? Have you ever been angry and then later you found out you really shouldn't have been angry about it? Or like, it was your fault? That's usually mine. So I think we're even conditioned a little bit in our frustration to make other people the enemy. So I found a couple breakup letters that I wanted to show you to encourage you that you're not all that bad. All right, so here's the first one. This is from Delandria to Crystal. This is how a boy breaks up with a girl. He says, I'm breaking up with you. P.S. Happy anniversary, though. 1 month. It's really hard to do this. He's like, I'm letting you off easy, girl. Don't hate the player, hate the game. Here's another one. Sean, I'm breaking up with you. You have not talked to me since the day you asked me out. Such a man. He's like 7. He's got it figured out already. That was 3 months ago. You need to get it together or you will never be married. And that would be sad. You should get married. Just not to me. Rachel. I love reading little kid breakup letters. In fact, there's a couple more next week. I saved the best for last. Like the best memes, the best, like next week, I'm telling you, come back. It's going to be good. It's my favorite message of the whole series, too, by the way. Imagine one day you get a phone call. You pick up the phone, expecting it's an unknown number, and it's a guy from the FBI. Say, this is Agent so-and-so with the FBI. There's a serial killer that has just escaped the local prison. We don't know where he is. But for whatever reason, we found in his cell an obsession with you and your family. He wants to wipe you out. He wants to take out your kids. He wants to take out your finances. He wants to wipe you out. What are you going to do? Here's what you're not going to do. You're not going to get off the phone and be like, it's just not that big deal. I can take on a serial killer. I got mad nunchuck skills. That's not what you're going to do. You're going to be like, I'm going to bar up my windows. I'm going to get a security system that is going to make Fort Knox seem elementary. I'm going to get motion lights. I'm going to get a dog that bites. I'm going to notify my neighbors. I'm going to warn my family. I'm going to get a watch out. I'm going to pray, and I'm going to get a plan to defend. And all of a sudden, all of your gun control ideas kind of go out the window, and you're like, hey, I'm going to have guns, and if you come into my house, I'll have guns, and I'll control you. Or stab you if you don't like guns, and that's fine. I'm going to have guns, and if you come to break in my house to hurt my kids, I'll have guns, and I'll control you, and I don't apologize for it. I just went way too far. I'm sorry. 1 Peter 5a. Let's go back to the Bible, all right? That's a good place to go back to. It says, stay alert. Watch out for your great enemy, the devil. He prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. Now, if you've ever watched a lion never announces its attack. It's never like, hey, I'm getting ready to attack you. Get ready. No, he kind of waits until you're vulnerable, and you don't know you're vulnerable. He waits until you get kind of close in. He waits until you think you're safe. And when you least expect it, boom, he attacks you. And here's how the enemy likes to do it. He has 2 tricks. One is distraction, and one is seduction. So the first one is distract. There was a guy in the Bible named King Solomon. Solomon was the son of the famous David who killed Goliath. His dad became king. His dad united all of Israel. And as David got old, he entrusted Solomon with the reins of the kingdom. Solomon decides he's going to do something crazy. And he's going to make alliances with all the other neighboring nations by marrying their daughters. And he actually marries 700 women. Can you imagine 700 wedding days, guys? 700 mother-in-laws? Ugh, that sounds rough. And he says it like this. He actually writes a book. He has a favorite wife. Because if you have 700 of them, you probably don't even know all their names. He has his favorite one. It's a Shunammite woman. And this is why this is important. First off, it says that she was dark-skinned. Dark-skinned is important because it means she didn't grow up in a palace. She grew up in a field. She grew up working. The one that he has all this affection for. And so he tries to let her know of the 700 wives. Oh, girl, you my favorite. So he starts pulling out the game. He's like, girl, your hair is like a flock of goats. 3,000 years ago, that was good game. He's like, your neck is like the Tower of David. I don't know about you guys, but I wouldn't recommend that. I'd go back to hey, God turned water into wine and he turned you into fine. That's better game for today. Well, anyways, he's pulling out this game, and in the midst of it, he realizes that there's something wrong in their relationship. Something's broken. And as he starts recognizing it, his shift in what he writes changes. Which, by the way, if you're under the age of 18, do not read this book. It's called Song of Solomon. In fact, if you're not married, you probably shouldn't read it because it will awaken things inside of you. Now, for all of you married men and women that think the Bible's boring, go to the Song of Solomon, read it, and apply what it tells you to do. In fact, one time, a little side note here. I met a guy. He came up to me after I was working at another church. He comes up to me after the service I don't know if I believe what you guys believe. I'm like, that's fine. That's cool, man. I'm glad you're here. He's like, the Bible's boring. I'm like, no, it's not. He's like, yeah, it is. The Bible's boring. I'm like, all right, you married? Yeah, I'm married. Go home, read Song of Solomon, chapter 2, and whatever Solomon does with his wife, you should do that. It's biblical. The next week, he shows back up at church. I'm surprised. I was kind of looking for him. And he sees me across the room, and he walks right up to me, and he gives me the biggest fist bump ever. He's like, I'm reading my Bible every day. You see, sex was God's idea. There's a religious guy in the room that's like, that's a man of God right there, honey. We should listen to that guy. Anyways, he changes his tone, and he says it like this. He says, catch for us the foxes, the little foxes that ruin the vineyards, our vineyards that are in bloom. You see, Israel was known for the trade of wine. Water wasn't safe, so they'd mix water and wine together so the bacteria would be killed by the fermentation of the wine. So a huge part of their industry was selling grapes and wine to foreign nations. And Solomon knew that there were fox that would come and run inside of the vineyards, and the little fox would eat the blooms. And if it eats the blooms, grapes can't grow. And if grapes don't grow, the whole economy kind of crashes. And he's not talking about their economy and this thing. He's talking about his relationship with this girl. He's like, there's these little distractions. They don't seem really big, but there's an enemy that's coming in to kind of nitpick and pull off little things. And these little things over time, though they don't look like big things, over time they're going to end up being big things. He says we need to catch the little foxes because they have the potential to ruin everything. Because we never went into the relationship thinking buying this purchase and that purchase and this purchase would eventually lead to us fighting about money all the time. We never intended that one little lie to just not have the little fight would turn into the medium lie, which would turn into the big lie. No one ever plans to walk into divorce. In fact, me and my wife, a couple years ago, we were doing post-marital counseling with a couple that was on the brink of divorce. And the woman sitting across from us, and she's like, Pastor Brandon, my husband doesn't love me anymore. We need to get a divorce. And he looks at me, he's like, I don't know what she's talking about. I tell her I love her every day. I don't know if I can tell her even more. How many times a day I can tell her I love you. And I just asked her, well, what do you mean? She's like, well, when we were dating, he used to come over to my parents' house and he'd trim the bushes, which is what my dad did for my mom. And when we first got married, he trimmed the bushes outside and he cleaned the garage, and now he's hired someone else to do it. He just doesn't love me anymore. And he gets real frustrated. He just kind of throws, oh my gosh, like, maybe this should be over. And she starts to cry. He's like, and there's no love coming the other direction. Like, when's the last time you told me I did a good job? And her reply was, well, everyone tells you do a good job. You're good at everything you do. Everything you touch turns to gold. You go to work and everyone tells you how great you are. You don't need one more person telling you you're great. And me and John, we've been in enough situations like this to know, like, oh, let's back this up a little bit. You see, her love language, her dialect of love, which by the way, it's a language, it's different than yours. I asked him, I said, if it would fix your marriage, would you not hire someone to trim the bushes and clean the garage? Would you just do it? He's like, well, yeah. He's like, that's what love looks like to her. And I look at her and I say, hey, I know he's really good at everything he does. But the only person that he really hears it from, that he's doing a good job, and what he did was good, and it really matters, like it sticks, it's you. You see, there's 5 different languages of love. There's a great book written about it. You should read it. It's called The 5 Love Languages. The first one is this. It's acts of service. She wants the bushes trimmed. And some of you, that's your love language. Like, you just love it when someone serves you. You like it when they wake up early and they make you breakfast. You like when they clean out your car. They just serve you. Some of you, that's not your love language. Your love language is quality time. This is my wife's most common love language, which, by the way, we took a test on identifying your love language, and the preacher gets up there and is like, hey, you're going to know the love language of your spouse. How many of you are excited? I'm finally going to figure out my wife. I'm clueless. She takes the test, and this is what she gets. She gets quality time. And then just for fun, the next day, she takes the test again and gets a different answer. I'm like, what? Like, as if I didn't already understand you, now your love language changes? But it's become the greatest adventure in our relationship is waking up every morning trying to find out what love language hers is today. And most of the time, I get it wrong the first attempt. No, don't do that. The next day, it's, I just want you to give me a hug. Some of you, that's your love language. It's quality time. You don't need them to serve you. You're not interested in breakfast. You just want them to sit down and listen to you. You want to feel heard. For some of you, it's gifts. They can tell you all day long they love you, but if they give you something, it's like, oh, they do love me. My 9-year-old, this is her love language. I could tell her all day long I love her, but man, I give her one little thing and she melts around me. It's her love language. I'm not going to tell the guys that are interested in her that until like after they're married, or at least engaged. They can keep, anyways. Another one is physical touch. You're kind of like a cat. Like, you don't need anyone to really change the litter. Like, you'll figure it out. You don't need them to feed you because you'll figure that out too. You just want them to like scratch you a little bit. I just want to get up, I just want to cuddle a little bit. Your physical touch. Yeah, and for some of you, you're like me, your words of affirmation. I'm a puppy dog. Like, you scratch my head and tell me you love me and I'll follow you anywhere. But here's the point. We naturally speak a love language. And oftentimes it's different than the language of the person that we're married to or interested in. And the place where we get distracted is we get so busy doing other things that we just speak our love language and not theirs. And one of the ways that we get to be devil kicking is to not just be on defense, but to actually be on offense. And what's your love language? And to learn to speak it. Because when we don't speak it, when we miss this one, we get distracted. Insecurity sets in, fear sets in. We start thinking maybe we're just not compatible. Maybe this wasn't God's will to begin with. Distraction. The second thing is seduction, sexual temptation. The Apostle Paul was a guy who, after Jesus died, ascended into heaven, he started planting churches all over, and he started realizing that they needed to be taught what it meant to follow Jesus. And he would write them letters. And in one of the letters, he was talking about, how do you live a life of freedom? How do you live devil kicking? And he says this, but among you there must not even be a hint of sexual immorality or any kind of impurity. A hint. Now, I think culture has caused us to define a hint in the wrong way. So we're going to play a little bit of game. How many of you would say that if you lie to your spouse and have sex with someone you're not married to, how many of you would say that there is a hint of sin? Anybody? Right? Preach back to me. Say, yes! You probably shouldn't do that. Okay, how about this one? If you binge watch pornography on your phone that leads to you lusting beyond what you can control, is there a hint of sin? Maybe it's not full-blown pornography. Maybe it's just an original Netflix program that they don't show everything, but you kind of know what's happening. Is there a hint? Does your mind start to go places it probably shouldn't? Jesus said, if you even lust after a woman, you've already committed adultery with her in your heart. What? A hint. If you dress provocatively, #blessed. Is there a hint? I've been a youth pastor and working with young adults for a long time, and here's the question I often get. Hey, Brandon, where's the line? How far is too far? How far can I go without stepping over the line? Paul says, total wrong question. He says, instead of asking the question, where's the line? He says, how far from the line can you stay? Because I've never met the couple that's married that says, man, I wish we would have been more physical before we got married. This never happened. You know, we get a lot, I wish we would have been less physical. I meet guys all the time, they're like, I know I have a pornography addiction right now, but when I get married and we start doing married things, that'll go away. It actually gets worse. A relationship at work where the girl's like, that guy at work, he knows how to carry on a conversation. It's kind of a connection. Never intended to cross a line. But it was the wrong question. Started connecting relationally. Did she cross the line? No, not yet. But because of the wrong question, she ended up in a place that she never intended to go. And even this week when I was praying about why do we do this? The reason we go to temptation and we go to sin is for comfort. Every addict I know wanted to just make the pain go away for 30 minutes. So they tried something, just make the pain go away. And fast forward a couple years later, they never had the intention of getting this far. The woman at work who enjoyed just being flirted with a little bit, she had no intentions of ruining her marriage. No intentions. She went to it for comfort because she didn't feel flirted with by her husband. He didn't speak her language. And it crushed them. Paul says it's the wrong question. Instead of asking how far is too far, how far from the line can I actually get? Not a hint. Not an ounce. In fact, later, Solomon has made a whole bunch of poor choices. Like, he's all but ruined his life. The consequences of his sin actually caused the entire nation of Israel to be divided after he dies. Israel later gets conquered, and it can all be traced back to a relationship actually from his dad that led to his birth, that was amplified by the decisions that Solomon made. And Solomon said this, oh my gosh, I've learned some things. He's like, I don't want people to do what I did. So he says it like this, I've crossed the line. I've shattered the line. In Proverbs chapter 4, he says, Don't set foot on the path of the wicked or walk in the way of evildoers. Don't do what I did. Don't go down that path. He's not pointing a finger. He's not being judgmental. He said, just don't do it. The consequences are greater than you think you could pay. Don't do it. Avoid it. Don't even travel on it. Turn from it. Go your own. It gives you do anything but go down that road. I know you think that that's going to provide you comfort, but it's only going to bring you more pain and more shame and more bondage. It's only going to make you feel worse than you feel right now. Turn from it. And where we've got it wrong in the church is instead of just trying to lovingly tell people, run from that road, we've judged people and pointed fingers at them for going down the road as if we haven't gone down a road ourselves. So how do you lovingly help someone stay away from the line? Hey, I'm not judging you. I've gone down that road. Or I've gone down a different road. Let me tell you, the end of the road's bad. There's a better way. How far from the line can you get? So what do we do? For some of us, this is our struggle. It's what we look on here when no one's looking and no one knows. And I wonder how much better your life would actually be if you didn't have a smartphone. I'm not saying that's everybody. I'm saying, but if you feel stuck, if this is causing you to pay way more than you thought you could pay, maybe it's just Instagram. Maybe the best thing you can do is delete the app. Will I have a social life if I don't have Instagram? Yeah. First off, Instagram isn't social. And some of you are like, wow, what about you, Brian? All right, here's one for me. I moved here in November. I'm not from here, by the way. I moved here. I didn't know a single person within 30 minutes of this place to start Vibrant Church. That was my purpose. And when I came here, I got a membership at a gym. My hope was to meet people. So I get a membership at a gym, and it's a really nice gym. They have nice equipment. They gave me a special rate that was super affordable. And at the gym, the girls at the gym, a lot of them were working out in like sports bras and bikinis or less. And I never crossed the line, but I found myself vulnerable. I found myself causing my eyes to bounce a lot more than I wanted them to. Like, it's really awkward on the elliptical when you're like looking like this. I canceled the membership. It cost me $200. I got a gym membership at another gym where people didn't work out in sports bras and bikinis. They're like, can't you handle it? You're a pastor. No. Don't even let there be a hint. Don't put yourself in a situation where you might find yourself vulnerable. So what about you? If you find yourself in that relationship at work and you're starting to have feelings towards someone you're not married to, what do? Ask to be transferred? Find another job. I couldn't do that. If you don't, it could cost your marriage, which is more expensive. I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about your soul. Why would I fight a temptation in the future if I have the power to eliminate it today? So when I have this conversation with people, I often get one of two things, two extremes. Brandon, I'm good. I can handle it. I'm fine. I've got no issues there. Or I find people in this other extreme. I feel completely stuck here. I have shattered the line. I don't know how to get out. I want freedom, but I don't have freedom. And I don't know how to get freedom. So here's what God's word says for you. So for those of you that are like, I'm good, I can handle it. I've got this covered. I haven't struggled with that in years. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 12. But if you think you're standing firm, be careful that you don't fall. Just because I can do this, and I've got pretty good balance, be careful. I can handle it until I can't. careful. And then for those of you that feel like you're stuck, he says, there's no temptation has taken you except what is common to man. What's that saying? Like, hey, you're not alone. You're not the only one who struggles with this. And here's your hope. And God is faithful. Not you're faithful. Not the answer is inside of you. God's faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you're tempted, he will also provide a way out for you so you can endure it. What does that look like? Deleting an app. Getting a different kind of phone. Transferring a job. Ending a relationship that you shouldn't have. Oftentimes when I feel tempted, I visualize what the consequences could be. If I go across that line, I'll have to face God one-on-one and give him an account for my life. And he'll forgive me. Completely forgive me. I'll hurt and disappoint hundreds of people that we've pastored and cared for. Friends. I'd have to step down from being the pastor of this church that just started. I'd be forgiven, but there'd never be the same kind of trust. I've got 4 kids. Yes, I know I look like I'm 24. I'm 34, actually. Thank you very much. I have 4 kids that believe that I'm a man of God, and I am. I want to continually build that. I want to give an example to my sons of what it means to be a man of God who's devil kicking. I devastate Jonna, my best friend. He's given me 4 incredible kids who've gone through so much together. Why do I not want to give a hint of sin? Not even a hint? Because the consequences are more than I want to pay. So today's message is going to be a little bit harder. 2 weeks ago, I encouraged you, if you're married, to grab hands with your spouse and pray together. Today's a little bit deeper. A little bit harder. I want to encourage you to go on offense and on defense. Because though it might not be a serial killer looking to wipe you out, you have a real enemy that's looking to crush everything in your life that God has blessed. And God wants to bless your marriage or your future marriage. He wants to bless your kids or your future kids. He wants to bless your finances. He wants to shower you with blessings as if he's a good dad, which he is, who loves his kids. So here's my question. In our marriage, where are we currently most vulnerable to spiritual attack? I want to encourage you to have a conversation. Where is it? It's somewhere. Are you busy? Are you financially stressed? Does one of you struggling with temptation? Are you distracted? You're only as strong as your secrets. If you're not married, change we to I. Where am I currently most vulnerable to spiritual attack? And you can't do it alone. That's why we have connect groups here at Vibrate. It's just groups of people that, we're just rough draft people who follow Jesus to live better stories. And you need other people in your life. You can't win by yourself. You can't. Your marriage can't survive by itself. God's plan was for us to do life together. So who are the people that are journeying with you, that are praying for you, that are encouraging you? So if you're married, here's what this looks like. You bring your spouse together and you pray, and you might go more than that 30-second prayer. And you just make a statement, not today, devil, not in my house. For no weapon formed against me will prosper. And greater is he that is in us than he that is in this world. And we are overcomers. Not because the answer lies within ourselves, but we're overcomers by the blood of Jesus and the word of our testimony. I'm not battling the spouse. When you grab hands, you look across from each other and you just remind yourself, you're not my enemy. I'm not battling against flesh and blood. I'm not fighting against you. I'm fighting for you. I'm fighting for us. And I recognize there's some of you today that even as I say that, there's a wound inside of you. They're like, but I feel like I'm fighting alone. I know what that feels like. To feel like there's one that's engaged and one that's not. And here's what I say to you. Even if you feel like I'm fighting alone, fight for your marriage. It's worth fighting for. Find their love language and speak it. And even when love might not be returned, keep speaking it. It's worth the fight. Wives, when you feel tempted to criticize, to gossip, to resent, take all of that energy, every ounce, take all of that energy and put it into a place of prayer, encouragement. Go to God and say, God, I need you. God, my husband needs you. My wife needs you. And use your words to build him up. Even if you don't see it with your own eyes, ask God to say, God, would you let me see it with your eyes? And say, I still believe in you. Even if he's not doing anything that causes you to believe that God's at work in your marriage and he can fix it. Send him a key to a hotel. Get a babysitter. Let him find it at work. Some guy in the room's like, that is a man of God right there. Men, get up and lead. It's in you. It's who you are. Get involved. Serve together. Make your life bigger than you and your goals and your dreams and your accomplishments. Don't just fight like a man of God. And learn to speak her love dialect. And here's a little hint for you. I gave the girls the hotel key. Here's the key for you. Little hint. Do it in front of her friends. If it's gifts, send the flowers to her at work. Do it in front of her friends. Because she often feels loved when other people see that she's loved. She feels valued when other people see that she has worth. Why? Because God put it in you. And if someone broke into your house, if someone broke into my house, you would not find me saying, John, I go defend her house. I'm getting under the bed. No, I'd get up in my boxer shorts. I'd grab a lamp and I'd turn it into a nunchuck. I'm going to defend my house. And man, that's what God created you to do. I've met so many guys, I'd die for her. Well, right now, she doesn't need you to die for her. She needs you to live for her. Make your life bigger than you. Serve her. Love her. Bless her. Be for her. If you want your heart to come alive, man, you want your faith to come alive, make your life about other people. And it starts with your bride. If you're single and you want to have that kind of relationship, start today. Be Christ-centered. Let God give you a vision for your future. Be devil-kicking now. And decide the kind of relationship you want to have. And end with this. There was a couple that was at my last church. And if you caught him during worship, she'd put her arms around his arms during worship, and he'd have one arm down and one arm up. And many of you like relationship goals. I know their story. It wasn't puppy dogs and rainbows. It's been a lot of hurt and brokenness. It's also been a lot of healing and restoration. They would tell you the best years of their marriage have been the current ones. And their future is bright. God's plan for you is to be Christ-centered, mission-driven, devil-kicking, and covenant-keeping. So where are you vulnerable? You're only as strong as your secrets, and you're only as strong as the people you have on your life that you're doing life with. So what are you going to do this week? Get on offense. Be on defense. And win the battle. Heads bowed and eyes closed. Maybe today you're single, or maybe you're married, and right now you need victory in your relationship or just in your own life. And you don't have it right now, but you want it. And you need God right now to come into your relationship, into your life, and give you victory. With heads bowed and eyes closed. If that's you today, I just want you to raise your hand. Just ask me, Pastor Brandon. I need victory in my life. I need freedom. I see hands going up. You're not alone. Hands are going up even more. Don't be shy. Put your hands down. Father, right now, I pray over your people. God, I pray that you would bring victory, that you would bring hope. I pray over the broken places, God, that you would bring healing and forgiveness, that you would set free and you would make new. And Father, I pray that we would learn to ask better questions, not how far is too far, but how far from the line can we be? God, would we be a people that don't allow a hint of sin, of immorality in our life? That we keep the little foxes out of the vineyard that distract. In Jesus' name.